Hello and welcome to the Ratio Podcast. I'm your host, Johnny Ray, and as always, we are coming to you from beautiful downtown Athens, Georgia. We got a hell of a show for you tonight. We got filmmaker Joe Begos on the show, and he's going to talk about his new film, Jimmy and Stiggs. And let me just tell you, there's not anything in the world I can tell you about this film to prepare you for it. It's just a masterpiece of madness. And Joe was so kind to come on this show. He's had it out on tour, and we've got the movie, that is. And he's been taking it all across the country, and it's going to be released on August 15th. So we'll have Joe on in a few minutes just to talk about that. And what a movie, man. And I highly recommend you go check out his catalog, Bliss, VFW. There's just so many just absolutely unique visions of horror, of action. I mean, the dude is really kicking ass. So we'll have a chat with him coming up soon. But before we get to Joe, I would like to just say, rest in peace, Ozzy Osbourne. It's been pretty insane to deal with for someone my age. Losing Ozzy. He was just such a force, when we were all younger and continue to be so, throughout our lives. Sabbath, and then, his solo work. I can't imagine my life without those records. They pretty much got me into heavy music, which leads to metal, punk, everything for me. And, I saw Ozzy. I figured it out. Little over, I think I saw him 11 times throughout the years. And, I've talked to friends back and forth about this. It's beautiful to see how many generations he's touched, because I've talked to friends my age. I've talked to friends half my age who have really been touched by his music and his legacy. But I think the greatest thing I can say about Ozzy Osbourne is all those times I saw him live, any kind of live footage, he brought it, man. When it was ready to go, when it was ready to take it out live, he brought it, man. And the world's just not going to be the same without him. But we have all those tunes, and all those great memories to go on. So, rest in peace, Ozzy Osbourne. We love you forever. But now getting to a filmmaker who I feel like just, encapsulates Ozzy's energy and beautiful madness is Joe Begos. And here's our chat with that gentleman. All righty, Johnny Ray with the Ratio Podcast here in a rainy morning here in Athens, Georgia. But we have one of my absolute favorite filmmakers, Joe Begos. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing real good. How about you?
Man, just, all kinds of issues, but it's good to talk to you, man. Now, you have been, first of all, before we get into the movie, and the movie we're going to be discussing today is Jimmy and Stiggs, which comes out on August 14th, and you've had this out on tour. What was that like, taking a movie out on tour?
It was good. It felt like, feel like you're in a band or you're a wrestler. You go perform somewhere every night. It's like a one-man show.
Right. Did any of the dates really stand out?
I had a lot of fun in Philly, Atlanta, Athens, Portland was really good. Denver was really good.
Right on.
We have the last one tonight in New York, which is probably going to be a banger.
Yeah, that's got to be exciting. Where are you at tonight in New York?
We're at an iPic.
Oh, okay. Well, it's a remarkable film right from the start in that you shot in 16 millimeter with all practical effects. What drove this decision to shoot in 16?
Well, it's my third movie shooting film, and I think I'm going to shoot all my movies on film from here on out. So that's the decision from the get-go.
Right.
I love the way it looks. I love the way it feels. It elevates the movie. It, subtextually makes people, even if they say they can't tell, I think become more hypnotized by what they're watching. It's a great medium.
Yeah. I mean, what kind of challenges do you deal with when you're shooting?
It offers no additional challenges. It's just a little bit more expensive, but the workflow is just the same as shooting digital, you know?
Right, right.
In fact, more people that I know have lost hard drives shooting digital. I've never lost a roll of film.
Right, right. That's a good point. Well, you shot the film over 4 years, and you've got your main co-star in there with you. Tell us a little bit about that fella, and how arduous was that process working on that so long with one person.
Well, we had a bigger, there was a few people kind of working behind the scenes, but it was mostly arduous because it was my house or my apartment. So I would have to like live in it even when I wasn't shooting, and it was always messy, and it made it feel even more like it was never going to end.
Like you were just always at work, you know.
Yeah.
I think when we met at Cine in Athens, I worked there, and we were talking about, I said the movie's a little triggering, man, because it's like just like my house, and you were like, I shot it in my apartment, so that really was just never being able to leave work, and did you have all the props just laying around constantly reminding you of it, and
Yep. And the furniture is my furniture anyway, and stuff like that. So
right, and your co-star, how did you get him cast in the film?
he's just a good friend of mine, and he's an actor. And I needed somebody that I knew to act alongside me, because even though I didn't know it was going to take 4 years, I knew it was going to be kind of a ridiculous movie to make. So, and thankfully, because if I had cast an actual actor and had to use SAG guidelines, they probably would have quit the movie.
Right, right. Well, you two had worked before, correct? He had produced, I believe, one of your previous movies.
Yeah, he produced Bliss, and then he was in um, Christmas, Bloody Christmas.
Well, you turn up in your other films and cameos, but was this the most acting you've had to do?
Yeah, for sure. I actually started acting in this before I made Christmas, Bloody Christmas. So, like, I made Christmas, Bloody Christmas like halfway through this production, and because I was, having fun acting, I was like, oh, I'll give myself a little role in this, get them SAG residuals.
Yeah. Well, your films feel so musical to me, and it feels like music is a big driving factor, in your creative process. How big of a part does music? Do you hear films almost before you write them?
Yeah, I'm hearing the whole soundscape, and it takes me a long time to write stuff because I'm kind of like directing on the page, like everything down to the sound design and the camera angle and the lighting and stuff. So
Right, right. Well, this is, Eli Roth is involved with this and his new project, the horror section. How did you become involved with him?
we know each other in passing through like the film festival circuit and stuff like that, but we have a mutual friend, Ty West, and Ty had seen the trailer that we cut, the sales trailer for this movie. And he's like, "Oh, you got to show this to Eli." So he sent it to Eli, and Eli hit me up and wanted to watch the movie. And 12 hours later, he's like, "I want to launch the company with this. I want to put it on 1,500 screens."
Well, that's got to be so encouraging, And
It's crazy.
well, Eli is like he's up there with like Joe Dante and Quentin on his film knowledge. It's crazy. Um, and I mean this sincerely. Your films show indulgence, I feel, in a very realistic, honest way, meaning, people are getting high way more than they're not nowadays. And I feel like your films show the day to day madness and handling that. Would you say that's something that's prevalent in most of your films?
Yeah. Just loud, chaotic carnage.
Yeah, yeah, and it really comes across in the films, and it's almost like just a visual record of those experiences, to me, not wanting to speak for anyone else, but I highly recommend all of your other movies, but the one that really blows me away, I had not seen it when you brought Jimmy and Stiggs to Cine, Bliss. I feel like it's a new classic, and the performance by Dora Madison Burge is just simply amazing. Could you tell us a little bit about making that film?
Yeah. I was having trouble getting a movie made, and I was kind of really frustrated, and living that LA kind of underground metalhead Hesher bar hopping life at the time and doing a lot of drugs. And I wrote that movie while I was doing all that. And, so it's kind of basically me. It's about me in a way, but I figured it would be more interesting to have a female painter instead of a male screenwriter as the protagonist.
Right, right. Who
Although
did
now
that?
in Jimmy and Stiggs, there's a male filmmaker as a protagonist. So, you know,
Yeah.
eventually happened.
Well, who did that painting in Bliss?
It's this guy Chet Zar. He does a lot of art for like Clive Barker and Guillermo del Toro, and he also designed and built all the stuff in all the Tool music videos. So he's a really,
Yeah.
really good visual artist.
Wow, wow. So you've done the tour with this, and this comes out on August 14th, and it's gonna go into 1,500 screens, right?
Yeah.
So how draining has it been? Getting all this finally. Are you going to take a nap for like a solid month after this is all said and done?
I mean, theoretically that sounds like the idea, but I really want to get back to writing so I can make another movie and kind of capitalize on this one coming out.
Right. And have you continued writing through this, or is this taken a lot with the promotion and just getting this
Yeah,
finished?
it's just too much. I haven't really been doing any writing in the past couple of months. It's like I could force myself to write, but it wouldn't be quality writing. But I'm on a plane every single day. Show the movie. There's long days, and I'm not gonna write a script on a plane. Like I need to be in a specific mindset, and kind of my whole day needs to be centered around writing. I can't just like pick up a laptop for 15 minutes and be like, okay, time to write. Like that's not how my brain works.
Right.
Which is fortunate because it would be nice to have a script ready, the Monday after this opens, but that's not the way it works.
Right. Well, how's the reaction been from people that have seen it? I know we were just over the moon to you about it, but how's the reaction been out there on this tour?
It's been really good. I think that people who come out to these preview screenings are our target audience, and I am the target audience for this movie. I make movies that I want to watch, so that's what's helping with the word of mouth tour is getting it in front of the right people so that they'll have the most enthusiastic responses that will then trigger other people to be interested in the movie. So it was important we got it out kind of to that, but it's all been really great.
That's amazing, man. It's such a great film. It's such a fun ride, and I think it's something people need so much now.
Yeah.
Go in and just turn your brain off and like go with it, man. Um, you've worked with some of the most incredible actors, in genre history. And if you would, I just wanted to get your thoughts and impressions with just working on two or three of them, if that's all right.
Like the actors.
Yeah, yeah. Like
Those.
first off, George Wendt, man, it's just amazing what you got on film with him. I don't want to spoil anything for anybody that hasn't seen VFW.
Well, I
But
think that if the movie came out 5 years ago, there's a limit on spoilers.
right, right, right. But what was it like working with him?
Oh, he's the best. I worked for Stuart Gordon when I first moved to LA. I interned for him, and then he launched Reanimator the musical, and I stage managed and like fucking ran the effects. I did like everything on that show, and him and George are old friends. So George came on and was acting in the play for a few months, and we just really got along then. And we're like, we party. It's George, like he's what you expect. And drinking beers, doing shots, smoking weed with fucking Norm from Cheers. It's awesome. And he was like, "Oh, Joe," he didn't know I made movies, or well, I made shorts, but I hadn't made any like feature length films yet. But then I went and made my first couple movies after that, and I kind of stayed in touch with him. And we were at, I don't know, it might have been a Reanimator thing or something for Stu, and I was like, "Oh, I'm making this movie Bliss in LA. You want to come down and do it?" And he's like, "Fucking love to." So he came down, and I think he just wanted to get out of the because he does he's doing like a lot of family movies and showing up on sitcoms. So I think the idea of doing something fun with friends, and then with VFW, it's like same thing. Like he's never had a chance to be part of a cool ensemble action movie like that. So that's kind of the genesis of all that. And I would have put him in. I was looking forward to working with him again. I was on the tour when I found that he died. We were
Yeah,
in Vegas, but I mean, for the life he lived, it's he made it pretty far. He was like 76. So
yeah, that's a win to me. He looked like he enjoyed life. and
Yeah.
that's amazing. You got to work
You're
with him.
most known for, drinking beer and eating pizza and being from Chicago. Um, living almost 80s pretty solid.
Yeah, yeah. And before we move on to a couple other guys I wanted to ask you about, Stuart Gordon, what was that like working with him?
Oh, it was amazing. He's just a tremendously sweet guy, and I just cold called him and went to his office, and he wanted to give me a shot, so I worked for him for free for a while, and then he handed me over Reanimator the musical to run, which seems so crazy now because I was like 22 or 23, but there's this ensemble of actors, and like he directs the play beforehand, but then once the play starts, he comes in sometimes. But it's like I was the one getting all the actors set. I was the one like rehearsing the actors. I was the one doing all the costume changes. I was the one fixing the effects during the week. I was the one rebuilding the set. I was the one doing the lighting cues. I was like and I was like, at the time, it's like, dude, I'm one person. He's like, well, this is how we used to do it in Chicago. And it was so much fucking work. But I watched him direct actors. He went to school with David Mamet, people like that. So like, he worked with David Mamet so many times. So I learned how to direct actors. I learned how to manage all this stuff. And I mean, it was like a 3-month film school that, I don't know how well I would have been able to handle a feature film production with as much as efficiency as I did the first time out. I think that's what helped me be able to get my first movie in the can for so little money and pull it off successfully. So, um, yeah, that was like my film school because I didn't go to film school.
And
And then
and
up until the end, he was, because he passed away too. But he would read my script and just give me notes on everything, and we would watch cuts of my movies and all that, and we would go to the movies. Yeah, he's just a really great guy. He definitely is like my mentor for sure. Like, Thanksgiving at his house and shit like that.
what a colossal mentor to have. And did you have any experience with what he was asking of you before you got started working with him in
No,
that?
I made a bunch of shorts and stuff. So like, I mean, the I had done all that stuff in some fashion, but like on a level like this. But it's not like we were on Broadway. Like he was doing it like his old school days. Like the thing was held together with bubble gum and popsicle sticks.
Yeah.
It was a very very low budget show, and just because all these people, like George Wendt, William Atherton was in it for a bit at one point. Chris McKenna. That's where I met Graham Skipper, who was playing Herbert West in that, and he's in all my movies. So like I had done it before, but like seeing it, at a higher level, but kind of the same way I approached things, it was like the perfect storm of how it worked.
Right, right. Well, another guy you mentioned, VFW, it is such an awesome, amazing ensemble cast. What was it like working with Stephen Lang, who's kind of the anchor of that picture?
It was awesome. I was pretty what's the word? I was nervous, I guess. I was anxious about working with this whole ensemble of guys because collectively they've got like 200 years of screen acting uh experience behind them, like collectively. So, and I was a 30-year-old kid going in and directing all these guys. So I was like, of course there's going to be a personality. Of course there's going to be some guy you don't get along with. Of course there's going to be clashes. But I went in and we had like a few days of rehearsal before we made the actual movie. And I went in and I was kind of just like, here's like, oh, I wasn't an asshole, but I'm like, here's exactly what I think. Here's how we're going to do it. Here's how we're going to do it. Like pull this movie off. And I just started like confidently laying all this stuff out and then blocking the guys and directing. And, Slang is just like kind of taking it all in. And then afterwards, she's like, oh, yeah, watching what you're doing there. I want to see if you had a handle on this stuff. And you got it under control, man. So me and you, we're going to keep these guys in line. You're like the head coach on the quarterback. I was like, all right, cool. And then, no, we have all to get along. And the guys, I don't know what their reputations are outside of VFW. I've heard a couple of them are difficult, but there was no difficulty on my set. And I think because nobody wanted to be the difficult one, and they all had like a common kind of place in the industry and all this, and we were always throwing lines around, like nobody, like Slang was the star, but it was an ensemble, and I think everybody had a really great time, and they had made a movie like that. So I mean, I had nothing but good experiences with all those guys, so it was awesome.
Well, one last one, and one of my favorite action stars of all time. What was it like having Fred Williamson
It
on
was
your
awesome. He
set?
did all of his own stunts. Yeah, like we were gonna get a stunt double because there's a scene where we throw a chair at him. And
Yeah.
we're like, dude, you're 82. He's like, He's like, okay, I ain't no pussy. And I'm like, okay, you sure you don't want to stunt up? He's like, yeah, just get it right the first time. And then we did it twice.
That's great. Uh, well, man, I couldn't be more enthusiastic about this movie. Is there anything that you want to plug? What's the best place for our listeners to get in touch with you?
Just my Instagram. It's just my name at Joe Begos. That's the only social media I'm on.
Right, right. And August 14th, is there a good website for people to go to find out more about the film?
August 15th it opens, but jimmyandstiggs.com, there'll be a whole, that's where you can check and see what theater near you it's playing at. There's already tickets on sale. That would be the best spot to check for sure.
Right on. Well, Joe, thank you so much for coming on the Ratio podcast, and I think you're fighting the good fight, man. Keep doing what you're doing.
Cool. Thanks, man.
All right. I want to thank Mr. Joe Begos for coming on the Ratio podcast and discussing this masterpiece of madness, Jimmy and Stiggs, out August 15th. Now, you got to make sure to catch this one in the theater because it's such a unique experience. It's such a badass ride. And we need movies like this right now so badly. So make sure to go out and support Joe. And like I said earlier, support his catalog. So many great movies there just waiting for you to discover. But that's about our show for this evening. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Make sure to follow us on all of our socials. And next time we will have Mr. Stephen McDonald of the Melvins, Red Cross, all that good stuff. And we'll be looking forward to talking to you then. And until then, stay switched on, and we'll talk to you soon.